Be infinitely curious. Follow up on other reporters' work and reporting. Kirsten Gillibrand released her tax forms the other day, and in the reporting with Bloomberg and other financial media sources, she said she got some money from the book deal, and she put some investments in a medical technology company called Windcrest LLC. It was between $10,000 and $50,000. And she only ended up paying around 7% of her income tax. Follow up on those things. Like, well, what is Windcrest LLC? Did anybody actually follow up on what is this medical technology company? Did you follow up on it? The only company that owns the Windcrest LLC, that has that actual Windcrest LLC, there's a lot of Windcrest groups and hedge fund managers, but Windcrest LLC actually takes you to a page in Minnesota, and that page is totally a shell site. No clickable links, just a phone number. And when you call that person's number, you get another person. And if you question that person on what exactly is Windcrest LLC, they'll say, oh yeah, that's not actually the real website. Our real website is atstargets.com. And then you go to atstargets.com and you realize it's a weapons technology system that sells weapons to the government and police forces. And then you think like, well, wait a minute. Is Kirsten Gillibrand sinking money into a shell company that's actually secretly funneling money into making weapons technologies for the government? Or what's going on here? A question that no other journalist has asked. Follow up on those points. That information was right there in some initial reporting, that Windcrest LLC, but nobody else followed up on it. You can do this all the time. Journalists miss many things, so follow up on other reporters' reporting. Second, don't dig through other people's tweets. Don't dig through Slacks. Don't screenshot tweets. Don't screenshot Slacks. Don't reveal emails. This is just bad ethical policy and does nothing but further deteriorate the goodwill that journalists and the public have with each other. Don't do that. It's very tempting. You'll see other journalists do that. Do not do it. It does nothing but just further erode the good public image that some journalists have. 3, think about whether you should do something just because you can do something. This is more of a philosophical concept, but you'll find once you move out of journalism school or out of whatever esoteric area you're working in and into the kind of trenches of journalism, that there will be a big push on making impact and engagement. And your work will be judged on how much engagement it gets, how much it moves the conversation forward. But not everything needs to be moved forward. Often stop and think, does this need to be said? Does this need to be said by me? And then does this need to be said by me right now? And often, if those don't meet the 3 qualifications, don't move on that story. Not every story is worth telling just because you can tell it. Just because you have a scoop on somebody's infidelity or somebody's life, right, and they may be a public figure, but that doesn't serve the greater good of society in any meaningful way, and it's only to do something that to blow up the conversation, or it'll get clicks, or it'll get traffic, or it'll pick up in the conversation. Think very critically whether it's actually worth doing. Does have negative effects on not only the subject that you're about to reveal or talk about, the family members, the friends. It is a domino ripple effect that you can cause. Think long and hard and critically about that. When I got an interview with a person that runs an academic paper mill fraud company, what they do is, college students send their homework, their test assignments, to this guy, and then he does it for them. He fills out their essays, he takes their ACTs, he does all their homework, he does their coursework, and he sends it back, he gets them the grades, and he takes some money. And when I decided to interview this person, and I got him to agree to show his face on camera, and then I released this story out into the world, that has a negative impact on this person's life. And then he's talking about how much money he's making, he's making tons and tons of money, but has he declared this with the IRS? What does his tax statement say? What is he saying? Am I about to ruin this guy's life in the next 5 years? Is the IRS going to, now knock on this door now that I've revealed, this kind of underground dark market for academic paper mills? And I've now put a figure, a public, made a person public behind this? What are the consequences of my actions and my reporting? Is this a story really worth telling? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But you'll see many other journalists that will have no problem burning everybody in their wake. And I would encourage any inspiring and up-and-coming journalist to think long and hard about, just because I can do something, should I do something? And this may not be apparent to you now, but you will find yourselves in situations where this question will become very pertinent, and I hope you remember it. 5, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. Ask the follow-up questions, ask the follow-up questions, ask the follow-up questions. Don't stick to the script all the time. If you have a script of questions you want to ask somebody, and you're reading the questions off one by one, forget it. If they say something interesting, just follow that pattern. Do not stick to the script most of the time. The best sound bites and SOTs, SOT is what they're called, SOTs, that you'll ever find is when you go off the script a lot of the time, when the conversation's fluid and it's not stiff and you're just talking to the person casually. So don't always stick to the script. Make every conversation interview fluid. People that aren't media trained, be more careful around. Don't burn them with the on-the-record, off-the-record stuff. If you're just trying to interview somebody that has no idea, that's never interfaced with the media before, and they say like, hey, off the record, and you don't really agree to it, or you don't really respond, tell them. So they're like, well, right now I'm not agreeing to be off the record, so like, you should stop talking to me if that's the case. Don't burn them, especially people that otherwise, have no experience with the media. If you're interviewing a politician or a massive public figure, great. Use all the little editorial and journalistic techniques you have. But for somebody who is not media trained, do not burn them in that way. Come to them sincerely and honestly. Once again, you will find people have no problem doing this, but I hope you'll take that into consideration when dealing with people that are not media trained. There's also the power of the pause. Whenever you interview somebody and you ask them a question, and they don't answer the way you want, or they give you a very, laconic or terse answer, don't follow up. Don't say anything. Let it sit there. It's a ballsy move. It can be hard to restrict it, but often it can lead to very fruitful further, dialogue and exposition about what you want the subject to say. I've seen this used to great effect even against other journalists. I've seen college student journalists use this to great effect against Peter Hitchens. A college student once had the luxury of interviewing Peter Hitchens, who was a conservative reporter in the UK. And the college student asked Peter Hitchens, what do you think the average audience reader is different between the Guardian and the Daily Mail? And Peter Hitchens said, well, I'm just a journalist. I just write for, I don't think about what the different audiences are. And the college student didn't say anything. That was all Peter. He just went like this. And just let it hang there. And 4 seconds later, then Peter Hitchens said, well, obviously, the Daily Mail is more conservative readership and the Guardian is more of a liberal thing and they each have merits and blah, 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 blah. And then he went down and he answered the question that the college student reporter was really looking for. And the power of the pause can be used very, very effectively. So keep that in mind. That's a great tool to have no matter what. The power of the pause. Just let answers hang there. And lastly, you must keep the audience in mind. You may find a story super interesting, but if it's not going to add value to a larger audience, you'll never survive. You have to have some, market analytical chops in the back of your mind to survive as a journalist. You must think about what is the broader audience reach for this? What is the context for this story? What can I, offer value to the viewer that will enhance their lives, or reader, value to the viewer or reader that will enhance their lives? Just because I have a very, niche, interesting fact about General Motors that is interesting to me, if it doesn't interest some sort of broader context about the auto industry or find some sort of doing financial angle in the stock markets that other people will be interested in, then you'll never survive. You have to understand your audience. You have to know them, you have to know what they want, and you have to deliver them on some level. That doesn't mean you always bend to their will, but you have to keep market economics in the back of your mind. You have to think about your audience and reaching a broad audience, right? That's the only way that your stories will really get covered. Think about it almost like successful musicians, like John Mayer. Not every single one of John Mayer's songs is Your Body is a Wonderland. He's almost a blues songwriter, right? He's written all kinds of different songs. Continuum is a fantastic album. But he wrote Your Body is a Wonderland and No Such Thing and other pop songs, and he got big. And then people listened to him. And then once he got big and he wrote those pop songs, people were willing to give the John Mayer Trio and Continuum and all his other stuff a chance and listen to him. But without those pop songs, maybe no one would have ever heard Continuum. You gotta think about the pop songs. Sometimes you gotta write the pop stories, because those pop stories can lead you to a bigger audience, and that bigger audience will follow you to the things that you're deeply interested in and will give you a chance to explain why these things you're interested in can also be interesting to them. So there you go. There's my letters to a young journalist. If you want to watch another video, click around. If you want to suggest another topic, you can leave it in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.